Hi, I'm Peter Tragos, host of the Lawyer You Know podcast and YouTube channel. The saying goes, everyone hates lawyers until you need one. Well, I'm here when you need one to answer your questions and give you insight that you didn't know you needed. Along with my partners, Pete Sardis, the professor, who has a finance and business background, and George Tragos, my dad, and the consigliere, a criminal defense giant, we can answer any questions you have. What's up, everybody? It's Friday. We've made it here. The week off of Johnny Depp's trial has just dragged on for a lot of people that are waiting for it to come back. But Monday, it will be here. So today, on the final day before we're jumping back into the Johnny Depp content, we're just going to do a regular case-by-case where I'm actually just going to mention some cases that we're doing videos on that we're posting today and this weekend. We're going to have weekend content for you on non-Johnny Depp cases. So that's what we're going to talk about today in the case-by-case, and then we're going to do an Ask Me Anything. I assume a lot of it's going to be about Johnny Depp. A lot of it already coming through the chat is about Johnny Depp, so we're going to answer a lot of those. And then about midway through, once we get a few more people in here, because I'm hoping the winner joins the chat, but we have our 75K subscriber giveaway. So we will announce that winner and give away the shirt, the Tragos shirt, and we will talk through whatever you all want to talk through today. I do have one little piece of Johnny Depp Amber Heard news to discuss, which is I posted it on Twitter yesterday and asked, who do we think Amber's going to call? And we know a couple witnesses that she's already called, obviously, and we know a couple witnesses that have been reported that she's going to be called, but I don't think that's the full lineup. And we'll talk through who I kind of expect to be called. Again, I didn't want to go look at the UK trial. I didn't want to go look at depositions or anything like that, but just based on what I've heard, and I'm trying to think, if I'm a juror, what witnesses do I want to hear from in Amber Heard's case in chief? What witnesses do I feel like I need to hear from in Amber Heard's case in chief? So we're going to start with that today. But if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and like the video so we can get this video out to as many people as possible, so we can get more people into the community and we can have the different conversations we want to have with people all over the world with different backgrounds and different ways of thinking about things and seeing this case, so we can try to see what every potential juror might think if they're sitting in that box listening to the evidence on whatever case it is we may be talking about. So firstly, as far as cases we're going to be discussing, directly after this live is my kind of premiere or intro to the Dan Markell murder case. Dan Markell was a professor at Florida State University College of Law, where I went. He was there when I was there. His wife was also a professor there. And it is like a movie, that story. So I'm not going to get too much into the facts or what's going on with it just yet. But directly after this live, if you stick around, it's a short video. I think it's about 10 minutes. If you want to check out what's going on in that case, and you can let me know if you're interested in it by commenting on that case and watching that video. Because again, that's what drives where we spend a lot of our time, because I have limited amount of time I can dedicate to YouTube. So I want to dedicate as much of it to the stuff that you guys are most interested in. And then Pete did a video on the Surfside building settlement down in South Florida. I did an intro video initially right when it happened about what type of lawsuits could come, what we can expect, who they can probably sue, who was potentially negligent. And there's been at least a partial settlement. Pete's going to break down that settlement, kind of give a case update there. We posted a quick update on what's going on with Astroworld and Travis Scott on Instagram, if you want to check that out. More lawsuits have been filed and a gag order has been filed by a judge in that case. And then, as always, Pete is going to continue giving us updates on the Balwani trial. Sunny Balwani, the co-defendant, with Elizabeth Holmes and the Theranos federal criminal case, which is not being streamed because it's in federal court. So let's get to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We're going to start here because that's what most of you want to talk about, I assume. So what witnesses is Amber Heard going to call? She's already called Dr. Hughes, giving us the PTSD and kind of setting the stage that Amber's the victim. And Johnny Depp is the abuser. That's what Dr. Hughes did, right? And was able to testify to all these facts before Amber ever took the stand. Then Amber Heard herself has taken the stand and testified. So those are the first two witnesses, obviously, for Amber. She is going to continue to testify at least part of next week. There have been reports that her sister Whitney is going to testify, and based on how many times I've heard her name in the trial, if I was a juror, I would expect them to call her. We have heard that Johnny is going to be recalled, and a lot of you had questions about that. Was there an agreement? We talked about that in the last video, but all reports indicate she's going to call Johnny. And then Miss Barkin, who I guess is an ex of Johnny's, that she is potentially going to get called to the stand. And based on Barkin being called, there have been a lot of questions. Adrian, I'm going to put yours up here because it's right in line, because a lot of people have asked this question. How is Johnny's ex testifying supposedly, but Amber's past DV arrest can't come in? This is actually a pretty simple legal answer. And there's a lot of outrage about a lot of things, right? Johnny's ex can testify. And this is speculation, and I'm guessing because I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know what their other depositions have said, but this is just based off what a lot of people have said about the case. But it seems like Ms. Barkin, Johnny's ex, is willing to testify on Amber's behalf. And I've seen on Twitter, some people said Johnny threw something at her or near her or whatever. It didn't hit her, and he didn't abuse her, I guess. But the point is, the reason she can testify is to the character of Johnny Depp in this quasi-criminal civil case where the judge is letting all character evidence in, it seems. She is going to be able to come and testify to Johnny's character. So if that's the case, then why can't Johnny call Amber's ex, who Amber was arrested and accused of abusing, but those charges were all dropped? And the reason for that is probably not that Johnny can't call her, but maybe she wouldn't be a good witness for Johnny, because everything I've kind of seen, as much as I've tried to stay away from it, is that she says there was no abuse. She denies it. She didn't want to press charges, and she said the cop was homophobic. So that could be the difference, that one is willing to testify and one is not. You can't just bring in the fact that she was accused of it or arrested for it. There has to be more reliable evidence, like a conviction or a potential victim coming and testifying that, yes, in fact, she did abuse me. And I think the door has been open to that if Amber's ex wanted to testify to that. But maybe she doesn't. And maybe that's why Johnny's not calling her. Maybe it's not that the world is against him or the judge is unfair or everything is just unfair slanted against Johnny. Maybe it's as simple as none of the witnesses are willing to testify to what he believes to be true and what a lot of people out there believe to be true about Amber's past. All right. So who else? Who else would we expect to testify as we're sitting on this jury? And I mentioned I put this on Twitter because I wanted to hear from a lot of you, since a lot of you know a lot more than I do about the case from other cases and what's going on in the media. So on Twitter, my handle is @Tragos Law on Twitter and Instagram. If you're not following us there, head over there and follow us so you can get in on some of this conversation. But from my perspective, and a lot of you said, I hope we hear from some medical professionals. And if I'm on the jury, that's something I'm expecting and wanting to hear. I want to know if she ever went to a hospital, an urgent care, got an x-ray, got an MRI, called a doctor on the phone is what we've gotten, called a nurse, I think, on the phone, did a concussion test. Was that it? Is there a record of that concussion test that said, were your eyes dilated? Were you nauseous? Were you having headaches? Did you want to keep falling asleep? Whatever it may be. Is there any actual medical documentation or evidence of these concussions or broken noses or serious injuries that she's alleging occurred from Johnny Depp's abuse? That's something I'd want to hear. That's something I'd want to know if I was on the jury. Raquel, her friend who lived in the penthouses. We heard her when they talked to Isaac. We heard her when they talked to a lot of the security guards. We heard about her when Johnny testified. We heard about her when Amber testified. We heard about her in opening statements. I want to hear from Rocky if I'm on the jury. She was there. Johnny let her live there for free, but then Johnny kicked her out. Is she disgruntled? Is she feeling one way or the other? Dr. Cowan, the psychologist or psychiatrist, I can't remember, for Amber Heard. We've heard his name a ton. What does he diagnose her with? What did she complain about? Was she complaining about abuse the entire time? Johnny talked about him. Other doctors referenced his notes and his diagnosis. So I would want to hear from Dr. Cowan. Makeup artists or stylists. We've mentioned the James Corden show. We've mentioned her personal stylist team. We've mentioned her appearances on the red carpet, on TV shows, doing press tours. I would think, as much as Elaine and the other lawyers have talked about makeup throughout this case, that we are going to hear from a professional, maybe even an expert, to explain how makeup is used to cover this stuff up. And it was used specifically in Amber's case, and maybe specifically what makeup they used. Was it Milani or was it something else? I would expect and want to hear that type of witness if I was on the jury. So I would hope, if she's going to prove her claim, she will provide some evidence of that as well. And then Io, another friend referenced by Johnny and Amber. And the thing with Raquel and Io, I think, is that it was both kind of pleasant explanations of them as friends. Neither one of them really seemed to talk bad about them. Some of the witnesses, like the party's sisters, are biased, or the security guards, Amber said, are biased, whatever. But Io and Rocky, I can't really remember if Johnny said one of them was, real biased toward toward Amber. But I would expect to hear from Io. We've heard their name enough. What did they see? What did they do? What do they think? Were they around them every second of every day? Those kinds of questions. And then lastly, another general category of witnesses I would want to see from Amber Heard if I'm on this jury, because the jury thinks, especially a defendant, especially a criminal defendant, they think, well, where's the evidence of this? We want the defendant to stand up there and say, I didn't do it, whatever it may be. So as a juror, I would think that I would want some of Amber's friends, maybe that we don't know very well, or drivers or employees or assistants or publicists or people that were around or that she spoke to a lot. I would want to hear from some of them, as we heard from a slew of friends of Johnny's, employees of Johnny's, assistants, security guards, drivers, doormen. I would want, it doesn't have to be the same amount of witnesses, but I would want just some lay people to get up there and be like, yes, I saw Johnny hit her. Yes, I saw Amber with a bloody lip. Yes, I saw her with the black and blue eyes. Yes, I saw her with a broken nose. She wouldn't come to my birthday party because her face was all bruised up or because she was in bed with a concussion. I would want to hear evidence like that and testimony like that if I was on the jury. If I'm looking to believe Amber's side, that's what I want to hear. And I would have wanted to hear the same thing for Johnny. When I'm sitting there, I want to hear people come and corroborate his story, that saw what he saw, heard what happened to him, listened to him complain. Because we have those text messages from Johnny. We don't have that from Amber. We've talked about that ad nauseum. But we don't have the discussions between friends. So I would want to see that and to hear that contemporaneously when it was going on, not years later, not after Johnny filed this lawsuit, not right before she wrote the op-ed, nothing having to do with PR or press or money or anything. I would want to hear that corroborating evidence. So we'll see what comes up. I mean, I would want to see pictures too. We've seen some. You can take them or leave them, but I really would want to see more people corroborate that. That's really something that would be important to me. All right, before we get into all these questions in the AMA, whether it's about Johnny Depp or something else, let's get to our subscriber giveaway here. And the community poll question, which some people ask where that community poll is, if you go on our actual Lawyer YouTube page, there are different tabs, videos, playlists, community, things like that. You hit the community. We throw some polls up there, some questions, some pictures, just what's going on type of stuff. And the winner is Anya, A-N-I-A. She said, and what we asked for, like, some content. What would you want to see? And whichever one got the most interest from everybody else was the winner. So basically, you all picked the winner. I would want a comparison on the differences from the UK trial and this trial, the witnesses, testimony, evidence, pictures, etc. And was Amber questioned by his attorneys in the UK trial? Is it the same attorneys? I can't seem to find that anywhere. And over 20 of you liked that and were interested in that, with a ton of responses that were good responses, but that one was the winner. So email us, lawyeryouknow@gmail.com with your address so we can send you a shirt. And we've had some other emailers saying they can't get through to lawyeryouknow.com. I'm sorry, lawyeryouKnow@gmail.com because they put the lawyer you know. It is not get rid of the, it's just lawyeryouKnow@gmail.com if you want to email in anything. So Anya, make sure you hit us up. And that is a great video topic. And I think I'm going to do that after this trial is over, because I don't want to read about that or be tainted at all by what happened in the UK trial, as I'm trying my best to listen to this without any outside forces. But post US trial, I think that's a great idea to do a comparison between the US and UK. So I will do that as the most requested topic for the 75K giveaway. And we are working our way toward 80,000. That's the next little benchmark. We've got 80,000, 90,000, and then maybe 100,000 before this case ends, but we will hit those benchmarks and do something fun at each benchmark that we hit. So if you haven't subscribed already, take a second, head over to the page and subscribe. And Renata Tripp, I have answered the question as to where the community board is. All right, let's get into some questions. Quinny, has your hair ever been a problem in court for anyone? I assume you mean a client. I guess the people that it could be a problem for is the client, the judge, or jurors. I've tried 3 cases, I think, since I've had long hair. And the opposing counsel has given me some jabs about it. The judges have said nothing about it. In court, I have had one of the judges say something to me about it out of court, saying, somebody's got their COVID hair still running, huh? And actually complimented. They're like, I think it looks nice. And jurors, all of the feedback from the jurors has been positive. Some of them sound like the comments we get in here sometimes from some of the overly nice jurors. Some of the jurors that are my parents' generation or older just say how much they love it, what beautiful locks of hair I have. Or some guys that are balding say, wow, I'm jealous of your hair. So it's all been complimentary from the jurors, which is the most important person as to who cares about it at trial. And I haven't had a client say anything to my face about it. I've had some clients that have been old friends, or some of my parents' friends or clients that, give me some jabs about it, or say, man, I can't believe you make that hair work, or you don't look like a lawyer, or things like that. But I don't really care that I don't look like a lawyer. I don't know what a lawyer is supposed to look like. Probably my dad, balding with a big white beard, tall. That's probably what they expect, like Uncle Phil in Fresh Prince is what they think lawyers look like. But lawyers look different today's day and age now more than ever. So I haven't had any real issues with it, but some of you guys have some issues with it, I guess. Patrick, have you ever been involved in a real estate fraud case in Florida involving individuals and a real estate company? My dad has. My dad has handled that type of fraud case before. I have not personally. Trina Cirque, does she have to let JD's team know who she's calling, I assume, and being Amber Heard? They have to let them know who's on the witness list, right? That's the first step. Usually if they've been deposed, that's more of an indication that they're going to get called, but not necessarily always. And as you're talking about the trial and as you're getting prepped for the trial, you usually will say, who are you calling today? Who are you calling next week? Who do you plan on calling so we can prep? And especially in this case, when there's timing, the judge doesn't want hide the ball, doesn't want tricks or trial by ambush. So especially if they're going to have to prepare a rebuttal case, they may say, tell us who you're actually calling. So if we need to get people in so we don't have scheduling issues and have to delay this trial or cause a mistrial because we can't get an important witness in, so let us know who you're calling. So usually they'll let them know, but they don't have to. And if they're on the witness list and they change their mind, they can say, oh, we actually are going to call this person, or we're not going to call that person. But we usually give the other side an indication as to who we plan on calling. Does the fact that Ellen Barkin, an ex of JD's, will testify mean that testimony concerning her ex previous arrest assault can be used anyway? No, I answered that one kind of off the jump. Steve Cass, if Amber's sister, thank you for the super chat. If Amber's sister, Whitney, refused to give a deposition to Johnny's legal team, how could she be called as a witness? This is a good question. There's a couple different answers for it. Number one, the judge could have allowed it over their objection. Number two, Johnny's team think it's going to be beneficial to him to let her testify, so they don't want to object to it. Number three, they are going to take her deposition at some point during the trial. And I mentioned it before. I've had cases where I'm deposing witnesses during trial because the other side has delayed so much. But we as the plaintiff usually want to get this case to trial. And sometimes we have to agree to caveats like, I still haven't taken your expert compulsory medical exam doctor's depo. Let's go. And they say, well, the Tuesday night of trial, you can take it on a 5-day trial. And I've had to do that. So they may be doing that. They may complete her discovery deposition prior to her trial deposition, so they at least know what she's going to say and can be able to impeach her with it if they get the deposition transcript rush ordered. So that is a possibility. And lastly, they could take some kind of unsworn statement where they talked to her on the phone. the other side kind of provides, this is an outline of what her testimony is going to be. Now, how much they can actually hold them to that, who knows? But there are ways to make it happen, even if she didn't complete that deposition. Lorraine Denisi, congrats on 75K. Thank you so much. Rowdy, is the Amber Johnny allowed to watch news or be on social media during the trial? I know the jury, but I don't know about them and their team. So the lawyers can, the PR teams can. Amber Heard shouldn't while she's on the stand. And they're in the trial, right? So they're seeing all the witnesses. That's really what the judge doesn't want to happen. It's not so much about what's happening on TikTok or whatever. So if Johnny and Amber see that, it doesn't cause a mistrial. If the jury sees that, it could cause a mistrial. Johnny and Amber are seeing and listening to all the witnesses. So I don't think the rule really is in place to try to block them from that. So it doesn't matter really what they look at or if they hear what other witnesses are saying and doing, because they're there in the courtroom. So they're allowed to be on this kind of stuff, although it's frowned upon, and they shouldn't interact or engage or post anything on social media or send anything to their friends really about the case. Marianne, would Amber Heard dare state on redirect, I used a surrogate after being told I'd never be able to carry my own baby? Flash forward 25 years. Unag Heard writes tell-all book, Mommy Dearest. Highly doubtful. Highly doubtful, because I think Johnny would have been able to have a medical expert actually examine her and see if that was true, or look at her medical records, or what we would have seen. That would, as much as I hate anybody's OBGYN records or gynecology records or whatever coming out, that would make them relevant. Absolutely. If she's making a claim like this, I would not expect it. Larry, Hollywood witnesses scared of getting involved. I don't know if they're scared of getting involved, but they probably don't want to waste their time in this kind of family law type of fight. A lot of media coverage and a lot of people are saying everybody's losing in this case. Everybody should lose. I don't want to have anything to do with it. So a lot of times people don't want to get involved. And in Virginia, it doesn't sound like they can force you to. Aren't therapists and medical professionals required by law to report DV if reported during treatment? Not necessarily if they say that the domestic violence happened a year ago or 6 months ago. If they're saying I'm in, and it's not, I mean, sometimes it depends. Different states have different mandatory reporting. If it's on a minor, then yes, most of the time there's no exception to the mandatory reporting. But if you're in an abusive relationship where both sides are abusive, sometimes there is some, what is the definition of abuse? How far is the line? But I mean, if she was saying he was beating her to a bloody pulp and breaking her nose and cutting up her feet with glass and things like that, that's probably something you have to report. And that's probably something they would have had to mandatorily report. How likely is a jury to think these kinds of things without counsel? Well, they get some counsel. They get some instruction from the judge. And they get instruction from the lawyers in closing arguments, in opening statements, and the lawyers can take them through those jury instructions as well. So they do get some instruction as to how it works, and they can ask questions throughout the process if they have them. Quinny, can Barkin still testify even though she's been all over social media for weeks? Anyone? If she's been posting about the case and that she's seen the case, she's not going to be able to testify. We've already seen that happen to one witness get booted from the stand. Barbara, if Johnny wins the U.S. trial, can he appeal the U.K. trial? I don't know how the U.K. appellate laws work, so I really can't answer that. Industry Ray Jean. Hey, Pete, heading to 80K. Yes, very fun. Question, what, if any, sanctions will there be because Amber Heard hasn't turned over the requested photos for forensic analysis authentication by JD's team? Thanks. So this is a weird one for me. And I would think, as annoying as it's been, I mean, the judge, I think, I've heard she ordered them to turn it over months ago, and they just haven't turned it over. I would be willing to bet she would have allowed this case to get continued if Johnny's team wanted it to be continued so that they could perform that forensic analysis. Yet they didn't. So I don't know if Johnny's team has made the decision to waive that issue. Because we have had judges say to us, Mr. Tragos, here are your options. Continue the case another 6 months or waive that issue and go to trial and take your chances. So I don't know if they've made that decision and say, we want to get this case to trial. Johnny wants the public to see. We'll deal with the pictures and all that stuff when we deal with it. So maybe that's how they're at trial right now, because you can agree to waive this stuff. However, if the court does find that they violated a court order, she can absolutely order sanctions, fines, penalties, loss of certain defenses or claims that you may have made. Absolutely. There can be all sorts of punishments. Wendy, should JD's team show photos of his hands from the hospital and AU that show no signs of punching anyone or anything? They are already in evidence showing finger injury, no scarring from previous abuse. I guess, but do you want to take the chance that the jury sees them and you make this big point and they look swollen because the guy did get his finger smashed off? So he obviously had some trauma to the hand. So do you take the chance of them seeing it all bloody and thinking, are those bruises on his knuckles? Because sometimes juries will do things like that. Well, they'll look at it a different way than you think they'll look at it, and it can blow up in your face, which is what you don't want to happen. Julianne, is Kate Moss a possible witness? Not for Amber Heard, I don't think, but I think she may be a possible witness on rebuttal. Papa G, I think you're building a hell of a community here. I have to agree with you. Christos Anesti, Alithos Anesti. I agree. This is really fun. Patrick, the judge advises the jury they are not allowed to discuss the trial or engage on Twitter or social media about the trial. What if the juror is found to be breaking this rule? They will be booted from the trial. They will be kicked off of the jury. And if too many of them do it, it could come down to there being a mistrial because we don't have enough jurors to render a verdict. Johnny, my brother was wrongfully convicted in Florida, sentenced to 35 years. The accuser reminds me of Amber Heard. Brother didn't take the stand per lawyer's advice. Jury only heard her story. Trial lasted 1 day. Crushed family, my poor mom. Johnny, I am sorry about that. That's terrible. That's terrible. What is the status of the motion Johnny's team filed regarding photos? Neumeister, the photo forensic guy, is listed as a witness, followed by motion in limine. So, again, we're getting into pretrial motions that I have not read purposely. But as much as I've tried to stay away from everything, from what I know about that status is the judge ordered it. Amber Heard's team did not do it, or they provided the incorrect information or incorrect passwords to where Johnny's team was not able to get any of the data that they actually wanted to prove the authenticity of these photos. And if Neumeister or whoever the forensics guy is on the witness list, maybe he's going to testify that Amber's team didn't give him the right stuff. Or the reason we can't testify to this metadata stuff is because of Amber Heard's team. They blocked us. They didn't let us. What are they hiding? Things like that. I don't know. We'll have to see when he actually takes the stand, if he takes the stand. Do you think Camille Vasquez is the wisest choice for crossing Amber? Yeah, I think she's going to do good. I think she's done well in most of the things that she's done, and she's done really well objecting during direct. So I think she was a good choice. Do you think JD proved damages? Was the testimony about being canceled enough for at least that part of his claim? I do think he proved that he lost the Pirates of the Caribbean. I do. JL Seether, what's your opinion on how a jury handles statements that have been struck from the record or objected to, even if instructed to ignore, they have been heard? Is this a lawyer tactic? Yes, unfortunately. It's an unethical one because we all know you can't unring the bell, as they say. And it just really is frustrating and annoying when they know it's inadmissible. That's why I got frustrated with Johnny's security guy. A lot of people loved him and thought he did a great job and he got great stuff out. Sure. But he was the most biased looking witness for Johnny to me because he was a former law enforcement officer and he was getting answers and answering things quickly over an objection and through an objection to make sure the jury heard, even though it was inadmissible, even though there was an objection there, he should have stopped. That frustrated me because I don't care which side it is. It is frustrating when that happens. Jurors, I think that's a juror by juror basis. I forgot to ask, I wanted to ask all of you all in the chat and in the comments watching this later, who would you call for Amber Heard as her witnesses? So let me know that in the chat, but also let me know what kind of juror would you be? If you heard something and the judge said to strike it from your memory and don't let it come into play when you're making a decision, would you be able to get it out of your mind, or would you still be thinking about it? Would you almost be thinking about it more because it was objected to and struck? Christina, I would like a pic of Peter's mother. She must be gorgeous. She is. Isn't evidence supposed to be given before the trial? Yes, we exchange all the evidence and exhibits before trial, but sometimes things come up and you're allowed to enter them in. You have to ask, and it's up to the judge whether they come in or not. Vanessa Black, thank you for the super chat. Dr. Curry versus Dr. Hughes grudge match. Who wins? I thought Dr. Curry was a much better witness myself. Pad kid, poured curd, pulled cod. Say it times 2, Peter. Again, I'm sorry. No, sorry. I guess she's making fun of me stuttering. Pad kid, poured curd, pulled cod. Pad kid, poured curd, pulled cod. All right, Sharon Bodemede. If Rocky were called, would she be able to change her testimony and say, look, Amber is lying. I saw nothing, if she wanted to? Yes, but if she has prior sworn statements from either the UK trial or a deposition, then she could be impeached and say, well, did you lie then or did you lie now? You're calling Amber a liar, but you're the one that changed your story. That's how I would cross her if she did change her story on me like that on the stand. And I would make her read her sworn statements and prior statements saying, all along, you've been saying Amber didn't do it. Now you're changing your story, right? You don't ask her why she changed her story. You just say she changed it, and then you make that argument on closing as to why she changed her story. Zazilla, can the judge follow social media and news reporting during the trial, or do they have to stay off like the jury? They can. Remember Rittenhouse? He was like commenting and saying things to the media about the case. It's interesting. Tor Theo, to what extent can you bring new evidence for cross? You can impeach or refresh someone's recollection for evidence. It's hard to get something that's actually going to become a piece of evidence that gets produced to the jury to take back with them while they're deliberating. But it's possible, and it's got to be something you didn't know about before that is relevant and necessary and material to the case now to get it in. And in the interest of justice, you've got to add it. If anybody has any non-Johnny Depp and Amber Heard questions, those are allowed to. I just want to make that clear because a lot of our streams and lives and videos have been about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. This one's more general. Toys Lucas, thank you. Beth Gray, hi from the UK. Is it the jury or the judge that decides a monetary award? If there is a winner, it is the jury in this case. How does the jury deliberate? Can they make a rogue juror abide by facts? So it's usually frowned upon for them to like tattle on each other, but it's a kind of a sacred process. So we don't know whether they're looking at the facts, the laws, if they're asking crazy questions, if they're just not following what the judge told them or following the jury instructions. They can all try to get this juror back on track, but sometimes it's more difficult than it sounds. CC, can lawyers be jurors? Yes, they can. It's unlikely that it happens, but they can. Ron Berner, what's up, buddy? Crazy how we are seeing via mass PIs that the jurors are not, as it's inadmissible. Yet really happened. Feels unprecedented. Jurors may have jaw-dropping remorse finding out later. Crazy what we are seeing via mass PIs. I don't know what mass PIs, that the jurors are not, as it's inadmissible. So I think you're talking about how they're not looking up stuff online, and how are they possibly staying away from this? Yes, and I think they could be surprised but the problem is they shouldn't feel bad, because if the judge and the lawyers, this is the evidence that came in, and if they base it on that evidence, which is what I've been trying to do, and they don't know about other things that, maybe Amber was contradicting on some of these other recordings that they don't hear, that is not for them to decide. That is not their job. That's not their burden. That's not their duty. Their duty is to look at the evidence in front of them and make the decision that the facts and law point to. Have you ever taken a case to trial that you didn't want to, but your client insisted? What was the result? Yes, this has happened. Probably 2 times that I can think of. We won one, we lost one. We won one more than I thought we were going to get, if I'm being completely honest with you. It's happened. Maybe it's happened more than those 2 times. We lost one. which I thought we were going to. And we won one more. So the client was, I guess, right about that. Luke, most people feel that Amber Heard's lawyers seem abrasive, grasping at straws, and generally stupid. As a lawyer, do you feel similarly, or are they doing all right and the public isn't used to how trials operate? The public is definitely not used to what trials look like and how they operate. I definitely don't think her lawyers are generally stupid or grasping at straws. I think they're doing fine for what they have. The only critique I would have from them, which is I don't even know if it's a fair critique, and I could easily see people having the same critique with me. I think they're a little too aggressive in the way that they ask questions, not in what their questions are. I'm okay with aggressive questioning. I'm okay with boxing someone in. I'm okay with being stern, but it seems like sometimes their speech patterns have a little bit of attitude to them and that they're getting frustrated and kind of just not nice, which it's your job and you're in court. You can be nice. You can get them with a smile, you know? Thank you, Mr. Depp, but please just answer my question now. Mr. Depp, the jury has heard you speak for 3 days. If you could answer my question now, that's fine. But Mr. Depp, if you would stop doing it, like, you know, just kind of the tone, I think, is the only critique I would have. I don't think they're generally stupid at all. Rachel Mills, what do you think of Young Thug's lyrics being used against him by the feds? I think it's fair game, and people should know that by now. Brianna Reed, new member. Thank you. Yes, we do have a membership. You can click the join button below. If you want to join our membership, we do some fun stuff with the members. Matthew Byer is also a new member. Lorraine Denisi, how does the jury keep track of what has been stricken? So they can either write it down in their notes or they can just in their head say, okay, let's not remember that. I mean, they got to keep track of a lot of this in their head and their memory, but that's also why it's really important for the lawyers in closing. If you do some kind of PowerPoint where you put the picture of the witness, who that witness is, you know, name and title, you know, house manager, whatever, security guard, whatever, and then try to remind them and jog their memory about the testimony. And then you hit the highlights of their testimony in closing. Closing is an art for sure. It's putting on a performance to try to bring the jury back through the trial. Acantha Rain, Oak Moon, are lawyers recused from being jurors in general? No, they can absolutely be on jurors. It's unlikely, and a lot of people don't want lawyers. A lot of lawyers don't want lawyers on jurors, but they can be on the jury. GPT04, what is the status of the Erica Jane Tom Gerardi case? A bunch of lawsuits are pending. Litigation is happening. We're learning new facts. Tom Gerardi still going through bankruptcy. I haven't seen any settlements or judgments or things like that happen yet. Vanessa Black, do you think Amber's Dr. Kipper nightgown story will be brought up during her cross? Very concerning that her doctor is gifting a nightgown. Very weird, very strange. I wouldn't bring it up on cross, but I don't know. Maybe it will. And we are going to live stream the cross. At least we're going to try to with me and my dad. So be there or be square. And we're going to do some like fun bingo things where like we're going to make a bingo sheet. And if this happens, check it off and see if we can get bingo with all the stuff that might come out in her cross. Maybe this will come up on it. People are referring to Rittenhouse. What is that? Sorry, I don't follow the news. Alex, I can't tell if you're messing with me or not. Rittenhouse was arrested for murder in Kenosha during the protests that turned to arson and violent, and he had a gun, and he was arrested and prosecuted and found not guilty. It was a self-defense case because he did shoot someone and they did die, but the jury found that it was justifiable homicide. Question, why are there 9 jurors? What happened to the other 3? Martine Sinclair. The other ones were dismissed for either medical reasons or family issues, or they just couldn't continue on as jurors. Jessica Alter, with the amount of evidence on Aiden Fucci, slam dunk case, I think it is, Jessica. I think it is a slam dunk case. I don't know if it's going to go to trial or not. I think he's trying to play the insanity defense, but I don't want to say play, but maybe use that. We'll see. Adrian, new member. CC Louie, is it normal to just show pictures and not medical records for proof of abuse? No, it's not normal, but you show what you have and the other side can argue where are the medical records. The other side is allowed to say, use the lack of evidence, because it can be evidence, contradiction in the evidence, or lack of evidence that the jury considers when making their decision and their determination and their verdict. That's in a jury instruction. Do you think this is Bev's fry bread wisdom? Do you think Amber's lawyers are aware that she is lying? I don't think that they think she's lying. We don't know I don't know for a fact that she's lying. I think her testimony is contradictory to a lot of things, but if they knew she was lying, I don't think they'd continue representing her. Brianna Reed. Have you watched any of the body language expert videos on the JDAH trial? Very interesting. I have not, but I've heard a lot about it from you all. And they all seem to think that she is absolutely lying. Matthew Self. What kind of whiskey do you have in that decanter set? So I have a buddy that is one of the owners of Horse Soldier Whiskey in the Urban Still House down in St. Pete. And that is basically the whiskey I have because I don't drink much, but he gives me some. And everybody says it's very good. That has some of the whiskey that I have. So it's Horse Soldier Whiskey. And the decanter was from a different friend named Brian. All right, let's see here. Johnny, besides your fam, why did you want to be a lawyer? I really like critical thinking. I like problem solving. I like negotiating. I like leverage. I like, the poker of it, the art of the deal. I like the networking, marketing, advertising, signing cases, bringing in business aspect of it. I really like a lot of different aspects of being a lawyer. And then I have always liked public speaking and things like that too, for as far as, being in trial, even though it doesn't happen nearly as often as I'd like it to. Toys Lucas, new member. Awesome, man. Kit Kat. Sorry I trolled you, Peter. It's all right. I expect it from you by now. It's just me, I guess. It's all in good fun and you're loved. Really, you're beyond amazing. Sorry if it upset you. It did not upset me one bit. You should know that by now. I can take a joke, hair jokes, beard jokes, whatever they may be, me fumbling over my word jokes. We can take them by now. We're all good. Destiny, what's the worst experience you've had in court? I have had a client go on a bender in the middle of trial, and we didn't know if he was going to show up the next day. I've had a client throw up in the courtroom prior to testifying. Those are the things that give me anxiety. I have had a defense lawyer throughout an entire trial reference garbage in, garbage out to all of my experts. Well, if the client lied to you, if the patient lied to you about a prior injury that he had, that would affect whether or not he needed this surgery, right, from this accident or from something else. The whole time referencing that there was this smoking gun and this little needle in the haystack that we didn't see in the prior records. And then we got to closing and he didn't have anything. It was just like trying to get the jury to think, well, maybe they lied. Maybe the patient lied and maybe there was something. So I'm sitting here sweating, going through documents at night, trying to find it in the prior records. Didn't find anything. Stuff like that. Because I prepare a ton. And so when stuff outside of my control happens, that makes me crazy. All right. Smile Instructor. Trial needs to prove that AH's op-ed was defamation. Why even hear more DV witnesses? More important, how the op-ed canceled JD, how industry reacted, how about industry witnesses, why they dropped JD. Smile Instructor. This is what I think this case should have been about. The amount of character evidence and past and who's mean, who's nice, who drinks, who does drugs, who's broken a cabinet. All of that stuff to me is irrelevant and is kind of twisting things and making things just seem like this Hollywood drama and like a movie. So I agree with you that it should have been more focused on the actual defamation claim, but both sides seemed totally okay with letting it go crazy like this. So we have the trial we have. Is it really illegal to leak a Supreme Court brief? Senators are talking about prosecuting and sending the leaker to prison. I don't know what statute it would violate. I mean, I definitely think they can be fired. They can be sued. There can be damages, things like that. But I don't know what the criminal statute would be really. So I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know the answer to this. Thank you, Melinda, new member. Cody Crane, how much stock do you personally put in the opinion of a body language expert? It's one of those things I would say. So in the law, we deal with precedent, right? And prior decisions. And there is certain law that is law that you have to follow, that is instructive, that a judge cannot circumvent, that a judge cannot go around, that a judge cannot disagree with. So that is the law. And to me, in my cases, that's the law, and that's what's legally admissible and permissible in evidence. But then there is some law and some decisions and some precedent that is persuasive, where you can present it to a judge and say, Judge, look at this argument. It's worked in this case, in this jurisdiction. It also applies here. I think you should look at it. I think it's important. I think it can really help us in understanding. That's how I would say a body language expert would work for me. Is I think they could help me understand. They could make it be persuasive to me. They could help me find indications where somebody may be getting nervous or lying on the stand or things like that, or a juror doesn't like me based on their body language or doesn't like my client or doesn't like this case. I definitely think they could be helpful for that. But at this point, they're not allowed, in my jurisdiction at least, to come up and testify to things like that. So they can't be the actual instructive top precedent type of law, but it's still persuasive. It's not something I just throw in the garbage and think is nothing at all. Lorraine Donisi, a new member. Angela Kim, why did Johnny lose the UK trial? I don't know. I did not look into the UK trial yet because I'm trying to just focus on this and the evidence that's coming in this. But I know it was a bench trial and different evidence was allowed in and no jury and a lot of different defendants. So a very different case. Christo Peeve, how do you motivate yourself before court? I like to get up early. I like to read a little bit, something non-legal related, and work out and kind of get the blood and juices flowing. And I do tons of preparation before leading up to it, so I don't feel like I have to spend every last second before I walk into the courtroom prepping. So that's usually what I try to do. RVA rental properties. How long collectively have you and your dad been practicing? I don't know if this is a fair question because the vast majority of this experience is going to be him. But I think we're right around 50 years together. I think he's right around 40 and I'm 9. So right around 50 years together, I think. But if you include all the lawyers in our firm, we're over 100 years together, which is cool. 4 lawyers. Let's see here. Christy Jenner, how has your practice grown since you started on YouTube? We have definitely gotten a ton of calls in a lot of different practice areas all over the country. And we have had quite a few calls now in the last few months about actual car accident cases, signing clients that are finding us on YouTube, which is really fun. And we're able to help a lot of people and represent a lot of people through YouTube. It has grown, I would say, I don't know, maybe 10%. We had a pretty good size practice when I started the YouTube channel. It wasn't like we just started the firm or anything like that. We're very established. My dad's been here, like I said, 40 years in the community. So we've been very established. We have a good size practice, but YouTube has given us a noticeable kick, I'll say. It hasn't just been a little blip. So that's been really fun. Toys Lucas, how can you bring a civil money case with show cause for emergency injunction, TRO, and complaint at the same time? So these are different legal things that you're mentioning here in the same sentence. So a civil money case would be a civil lawsuit that you file. The TRO is something you get in a different court, criminal court or family law court, where they give you the actual injunction. But what you can do is, like, if it's an abuse case or stalking case or something, you can notify law enforcement and hope they start a criminal case. You can file for an injunction and also sue somebody civilly. So you can do all of those things in kind of almost different jurisdictions, and you can use what you have, like the TRO, the injunction, things like that, in criminal court, where if they do arrest them, they also put a no contact order in that arrest, in their kind of bail terms of their bail or their release. And then also in the civil case, you can add it in there that you got this TRO, et cetera. So they can kind of all be used in conjunction. Can you decide to not take on a client in the middle of a trial? Well, no, you've already taken on the client at that point. You can try to withdraw. Judge probably won't let you because they don't want to leave the client hanging. Shristi Seth, do you think this trial will affect the lawyer's career? Probably. Why is defamation so hard to prove? Because in our country, we want to protect certain rights, and one of those rights is freedom of speech. You hear it talked about in a lot of cases. I mean, there are some horrible cases where people did not get convicted or couldn't get sued for things that they said, and they say horrible things because we want people to be able to have an opinion and give their free speech, not like the country we came from and had to fight for revolution on, where, and there are other countries in the world today still like that, where you can get arrested if you disagree with the president or the dictator or the prime minister or whatever it is. And we don't want to be a country like that. So we want to protect free speech. How do you motivate yourself before a trial? I think I already answered that one. Are we at a point, all other witnesses bad for Johnny Depp? I think Amber hopes all the other witnesses are going to be bad for Johnny Depp, but Johnny Depp, this is from DPAT, will have the opportunity for rebuttal to bring more good witnesses for him, theoretically. Loving the Lives, subbed a couple of weeks ago. This is my last SC. What is the difference in value between your largest settlement and your father's? Pretty similar, but he still does have a larger one than I do. He still does have the largest one in our firm, but it was confidential. So, but he still takes the cake, right? It's good for him. Ron Berner, how hard is it not to bring work home? Not the paperwork, but the vibe of the dark stuff. Just watching Dateline makes me feel like I need a shower. I'm with you. One time, my brother-in-law and I, before my wife and I were married, were on a trip together, and he and I shared a hotel room while she stayed with her parents in a different hotel room. And we all night watched To Catch a Predator, and we just got hooked on it and watched 20 episodes in a row. And it's exactly like you're saying. At the end, you're just everybody's a creep. They're showing up with candy and condoms. And it's what are you guys doing? You guys are such creeps. And then Harrison walks in and is like, hello, what are you doing here? But anyways, how do I not bring it home? To me, it's actually not that hard. I love being at home. I love time with family. I can focus on that and compartmentalize. And I take calls while I'm at home if I need to. Clients have emergencies. Clients need certain things. Email me, call me, whatever it may be. And I'm responding to things. So I don't ever really shut off work, but I definitely shut off the vibes, like you're saying. Although I would say I have a pretty good demeanor and vibe and outlook at work too. I'm not taken down by it, or I try not to get too overly down in the dumps with the dark stuff. I really try to focus on how I can help and what I can add to the situation, what value I can add, what benefit I can add to the client, because usually when they come to me, the bad stuff's already happened. So I try to be a light towards the future and a step towards, the uphill climb. We've kind of gotten through the worst part of it, and this is kind of the rock bottom. Let's climb up together. That's how I try to look at it. Kaylee O'Connor, Peter, I made the president's list last term and almost have my paralegal associate's degree. Any advice when trying to retain a job after I graduate? That is awesome. Congratulations. You're already well on your way being on president's list and having an actual paralegal degree, because a lot of paralegals don't, and they can learn from experience. They do a great job with it and they crush. But having a paralegal degree on the president's list is a great thing, because it's going to show any employer that you're smart and you pick things up and you can learn how to do just about anything. So I would press that in interviews. Make sure that's on your resume. Obviously, I would get as much experience I can now, even if it's just foot in the door, legal assistant, receptionist, answering phones, doing intakes, whatever you can to help out. Getting some legal experience, being in a law firm is huge. So I would try to get as much of that onto your resume, and then just be a sponge, soak in everything, use what you learn as you're interviewing at other law firms, because lawyers love experience, people that can learn, people that are smart. Congratulations. Wayne Lang, the first member. Wayne, yes. On Twitter, Wayne sent me a screenshot of differences between this and the UK trial, and I didn't read it, Wayne. I hearted the tweet. I didn't read it in full yet because I want to save it for when I do that video comparing the UK trial and the US trial. I'm then going to bring back up your tweet so I can put it for reference as I'm explaining some of the differences, but thank you for tagging me in that. Linda Randolph, if Johnny Depp wins the $50 million, how is Amber Heard held accountable to pay if she doesn't currently have the money? He can try to attach assets. He can try to garnish her wages. He can have a judgment over her head. There's a lot of things you can do, even if you can't collect the money up front. Mary saying, do lawyers advise their clients on what clothes to wear? Sometimes we have discussions about it. We don't want to go too overboard or too underdressed. We don't say, here, you have to wear this exact suit. most of the time. Carrie Barton, I really appreciate how you explain terms of the court to us, where we can understand when we're watching a trial. Love your channel. Thank you so much, Carrie. That's kind of the point, right? Is a lot of you don't want to be lawyers, right? We have some people who want to be paralegals and stuff, and some people that want to be lawyers, but a lot of you just want to understand the process. And I think it's important for you to understand the process, whether this is your jurisdiction or community or not. Just understanding the legal process makes you understand what your rights are and makes you less afraid maybe of doing certain things, or if this circumstance ever does hit you in the face, you can understand, okay, here's where I need to start, or I need to call a lawyer and ask these kinds of questions. Sarah K., it's your day to make me again admit that I'm a horrible Greek. I didn't go to Greek school. I can't read Greek. I'll have to ask Pete Sardis, my partner, to read this to me later and tell me what it says. But thank you for the super chat. Mr. Turn Up the Party, have you ever represented someone facing a Rico charge? My dad has many times. I haven't personally. I've worked on his cases that were Rico when I was younger. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is it to defend a Rico charge? This really depends on the case. Sometimes it can be a 10, but sometimes it can be a 1. 1 meaning easy, I guess. Yeah, sometimes it can be a 10 where it's really hard. Sometimes it can be a 1 because there's so much going on that the jury has to put a lot of this together. And I know he's won some really big Rico trials. Dana Bean, TMZ threw her under the bus as well now. You should check it out. Meaning Amber. It's interesting. Cheryl Laporte, thank you for the super sticker. Kate Lewis, off topic, I emailed you for advice. So most of the emails we get back to as quick as we can. Sometimes we have to call to get more information. Sometimes I'll respond to them when I get them. Sometimes we'll refer to other lawyers. So I will try to get to it as soon as I can, Kate, if I haven't already. Miss Tralimus. I always am so horrible at these, so I try to slow down and see if it gets easier, but it did. Have you ever played that game where you get the card and it's like these 3 words that you mush them together and it's not actually the word, but when you say it quickly, you end up figuring out what it is? That's what I try to do with some of these names. Thank you. New member. Awesome. Can Dr. Curry reference Amber's testimony to point out behavior consistent with her diagnosis? Can she speak to bipolar since Amber self-reported? It'd be hard to have her on the fly speak to bipolar if she didn't already have an opinion on that. But I think that she can say certain things indicate that Amber does fit into that disorder. And that's exactly how she'd expect her to testify potentially. Sometimes the judge won't like that. Christo Peeve, what is your favorite type of music? So growing up, it was Dave Matthews Band, John Mayer, still is, love them. And then rap, I like old rap. But now Surfaces is kind of my vibes, which is kind of Dave Matthews-y and John Mayer too. Sarah Beth Medeiros. JD's team asks the judge to fine Amber Heard over metadata, have her cover fees for forensic guy, and that jury be told pics and recordings haven't been authenticated. We'll see if the judge does that. Ahmad Waggy. What's your take on the fact that Amber hasn't turned over the pictures for forensic inspection? Hello from Cape Town, South Africa. I think it doesn't look good, and I think the jury is going to get a negative inference from that, meaning either Johnny Depp's team or the judge can say, she didn't turn this stuff over, so take that for what you will. Johnny, does opposing team impact decision to take a case? So like who the defense lawyer is? Not to me at all. It changes the fact, like, do I want to call them on the phone? Or are they one of my buddies that I know that I've, worked with a lot? It'll change that. And sometimes how we handle certain cases from the jump, but it won't change whether or not I take a case now. In UK trial, Amber Heard's assistant, Kay James, claimed she had stolen her essay story from her own. Was JD's team maybe waiting for Amber Heard to testify so that they can impeach? Maybe. Laura Flint, best behavior panel quote on Amber Heard's testimony. She's giving us the story of a flawless Disney princess who lived with Satan. Interesting. Colin McLennan, could Johnny have sued for $1 to make a point? Yes. Just need to have damages. Tali, unrelated, but are you a Tampa Bay Lightning fan? Yes, I am. You look like you could be on the team. Part-time lawyer, part-time pro hockey player. I am not a hockey player at all. I assume it's just the hair. I have a lot of friends that are into hockey now and their kids are into hockey, which I think is funny. And I think it's just because the Lightning are really good. But I have never really played hockey before, but I do like the Lightning. Maybe Sunshine, new member. Awesome. A Savage. Although Johnny Depp requested $50 million, can the jury award him more? Yes, they can award him more. They can award him less. They can award him exactly $50 million. But if they award him like $1 billion or something, the judge could step in and say, no, $50 million is more fair for this case. And that's what he asked for. And they can bring it down. The judge can't pick the number and can't pick who wins. But if something crazy happens, the judge can try to fix it in the interest of justice. Hi from the Netherlands. I don't know anything about the U.S. legal system. Suppose AH loses the trial. Can she go to a higher court? Yes. We call that here the appellate court. So she can appeal to them and try to get it overturned or try to get a new trial. Do you do pro bono work, Christina? Yes. Most of our pro bono hours are through local churches or different organizations that can't afford legal help for what they need legal help for. And then we have some prior clients that we'll do some pro bono work for as well. As you can imagine, we get asked all the time to do work for free. And a lot of times the answer is no. Most of the clients we have are paying clients. It is a small percentage of our practice. What is your Twitter? Kim Z Life. Well, let me take down your comment so you can see right here. At Tragos Law is our Twitter and our Instagram. So jump on there, make sure you follow us and get in the action on Twitter and Instagram. Minnesota Mickey. How can someone defend someone who can't remember their name just saying, yeah, that wasn't great, but I mean, maybe nerves. Maybe she had it written down wrong. I think it was her middle name. She said Laura Amber instead of Amber Lawyer. Laura, look at me. I'm fumbling over it as well. What research did Johnny Depp and AH put into choosing those particular law firms' teams? I have no idea. This will be my guess. Ask for references from lawyers that they have in other things. Maybe their family law lawyer recommended them. Maybe their business lawyer, entertainment lawyer, whatever. They interviewed them, see if they like them and vibed with them. They looked at their references maybe and asked them to talk to some of their other clients. And then they probably looked them up and checked out their credentials and their websites and things like that. Stay strong. I want to commend all these really great questions. Other counsels don't have such great interactions. Thank you. Stay strong. Maria, AH told that she started to feel it in advance when Johnny Depp was about to get violent soon. If so, isn't it odd she didn't record any of that happening? Great point. Really great point. Because she did say that. It's like, I started to guess his moods and feel when he was really going to go off the deep end, or there was, she said something about the adrenaline or what was it? So something weird that she said, like, there was Coke Johnny and there was Drunk Johnny and all that stuff. Yeah, it was kind of weird. Mary saying, do you ever get threatened? And if so, isn't it frightening for you and your family? It's happened once or twice. Again, that's something more my dad deals with than I do. Yeah, it's not great, but part of life. Thank you, Jam, for the super sticker. Ahmad Waggy. I heard from somewhere that in the U.S., the loser is supposed to pay legal fees if the winner. Is that true? Only under certain circumstances. There are certain statutory requirements where the loser does have to pay. There are certain contractual requirements where if you sign a certain contract that says, if we have a dispute, loser pays. And then there are certain procedural tools you can use, like a proposal for settlement, which I've talked about in other cases, where you can make an offer, and if you go to court and you beat it by 25%, because the other side rejected it, then they not only have to pay the judgment, but your attorney's fees and costs. There are some different ways that you can get the other side to pay, yes. Shristi Seth. Why are they redacting some evidence? What does that mean? When they redact evidence, they're taking out parts of the evidence that's either inadmissible or private or protected information that the jury can't see. Either it's been objected to, or everybody knows, you don't put people's social security numbers or addresses or things like that in evidence for the jury to see. If he hasn't already done so, do you think your dad would be able to chat about the Crumbly case? Maybe during some breaks, because he's going to come on with me, I think, and stream the Amber Heard cross next week. But we're going to stream the whole cross. We're going to try to. It's going to be a risk. So if it blows up, then just like the video and come back another time. But during the breaks, or maybe during, the lunch break or something like that, or maybe after, he can take some questions generally about criminal cases. I don't know if he's following that. He's probably read some news headlines, but I don't know how much he's following it. Hi from Australia. I have watched the whole case so far. I love your content. Thank you. Question: if Johnny Depp wins, do you think he should resue in the UK? And if so, would he be successful? I don't know how the UK law works, so I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can appeal or do anything like that. Ashanti Feebles. I just find it insane that there is actual proof he's right with the audio, but audio can't be played because of legalities. Other people, justice system failed, to be honest. So I haven't listened to that. That's another thing I'm going to look at after the trial, potentially, to talk through it and see how unfair it is or why it didn't come in. But maybe it's going to come in. So let's just wait. Let's wait till cross. Maybe they're going to impeach her with it. Who knows? Let's see. Frog Green. What happens next week in court? Amber Heard takes a stand on Monday, finishes her direct. At some point, she gets crossed. And I would think we're going to get into some other witnesses next week. If there's a mistrial, who pays for it? So if it's a hung jury or a mistrial that's nobody's fault, or all these jurors go on and they watch my YouTube page and they tell the judge, lawyer, convinced us, this is what we think now on the case. And so they don't have a jury and it's a mistrial, nobody has to pay for it. Each side bears their own attorney's fees and costs. If Amber's side or Johnny's side purposely tries to get a mistrial because they think they're losing, then they will have to pay for the costs of the case if they do that on purpose. All right, we are just over an hour, so we're going to start winding down here. Anya, if you just joined, you were the 75,000 subscriber winner. If you guys haven't subscribed to our page, hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 80K. Let's keep pushing through, see how close to 80 we can get over the weekend before we come back next week and live stream the cross. I'm going to get to the last few questions, but I just want to thank everybody for coming out today for the live. All your questions were awesome. Had a lot of fun with it as usual. We'll be back in hard on Johnny Depp next week. Right after this at 4:30, there is a video posting. I don't know if it's posting directly after this or at 4:30, but one or the other. And I'm probably going to go for another few minutes, so it'll be close to 4:30. But the Charlie Adelson, Dan Markell murder case, we do kind of our intro on that. We did the same thing on Johnny Depp, where we kind of give a little preview of what's happening, what we see from the complaint, what we think is going to happen at the trial. That case is a little earlier on, even though the trial may start as soon as Monday. There are other things that may be a reason it's not. He was an FSU law professor at Florida State College of Law while I was there. And it's a case happening here in Florida. So if you want to check that out, it's happening right after. And then we have more seaside or surfside building down in South Florida talking about the settlement. Pete also did another Bonnie and Clyde, the Whites that escaped from prison update. I think that's going to post this weekend. And then Balwani update also from Pete, posting probably Monday. So a lot of content coming, but we will be jumping hard back into Johnny Depp next week when the trial commences. Jackie Cattle Dog Mom. Amber didn't get called when Johnny's team went due to an agreement. Then they tried to get the case dismissed. Can Johnny fight getting called again? I think if they had an agreement in place, the judge may enforce it, but I did not hear them say that they had the agreement that both of them wouldn't be called. I think all I heard was that they had an agreement that Johnny wouldn't call Amber, in his case, chief. I could be wrong about that. And if they said the parties wouldn't call each other, I think they can argue that, but they can also argue to the judge, something is different, something new happened. In the interest of justice, we have to, and the judge would potentially allow them to call Johnny Depp, even if he doesn't want to be called. Bev's Fry Bread Wisdom. Who do you think will win this case? Right now, I think Johnny Depp has the upper hand, but I think Amber Heard could win it on cross if she does a great job and the jury believes her. So I don't think it's over, but I think Johnny Depp is ahead. Stay strong. Quick off Johnny Depp, Amber Heard topic. You think you can do a live stream for general legal questions, or you charge for consultation? I think many will benefit and cut time by much. So if you're saying general legal questions like, how does this work? Or what is it? What's the statute of limitations on this? Or How do sentencing guidelines work? Or how do you ask for damages? How do you calculate damages? What should you do after a car accident? If it's those kinds of questions, sure, I can do a live. That's kind of what these lives are on Friday. People can ask me anything. Ask me any general legal questions. If it's specific legal questions to your case that you might be a client on, or a loved one or a friend, I will never do a live stream of that. I will never give legal advice over this. All these videos are not legal advice. None of us have an attorney-client privilege. If you email me or call me directly privately, that's why we provide our email address. Then we establish that privileged conversation during an attorney-client consultation. And all of my consultations for car accident cases, slip and fall cases, injury cases, med mal, nursing home, any kind of cases like that are free consultations. I don't pretend like I charge for them and then give them away and say, look at all this money you're saving with a free consultation. Those are free consultations for anyone. Now, there are other consultations that may not be free. People want me to review 1,000 documents or go through contracts or whatever. I don't take a lot of those cases. So those consultations are a little bit different, but 99.9% of our consultations are free. So email me if you ever have an actual specific legal question about a case, lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. Our website is tragoslaw.com. Our handle on everywhere is tragoslaw.com. You can reach out to us anywhere. We have a lot of ways to get a hold of us if you have a specific legal question. But the general questions, that's what these lives are for. Ahmad Waggy, in your opinion, what are the hardest parts of the case for JD to overcome? It's hardest to overcome that this is her opinion that she is an abuse victim. He has to prove that that's a lie, and she either knowingly lied or recklessly said those things to hurt him. So from my opinion, that is by far the most difficult part of the case to him, is if the jury believes that after all this and everything they went through, yes, she believes, in her opinion, that she was a victim of all this stuff, and therefore it's not defamation because it was true. That's the most difficult part to overcome. All right. That's a wrap on today's live. Thank you, everybody that was here. We are going to start the Markell trial preview here directly after this live. So stick around if you want to see that, and let me know what you think of it. Let me know what your questions are in the comments. Like this video on your way out and like that video as it starts. And as always, subscribe if you haven't already. So thank you, everybody, for being here with us. Jack, did you just join? I just noticed your name here for the first time, but the chat's been going kind of wild. So thanks, everybody, for coming. This was fun, as always. Until next time. What's up, Brianna? See you in there as well.